Hey crafty friends, this is Jenny from crafttestdummies.com, and today I'm going to show you in quick time how to take a bullet journal and turn it into an art journal. Alright, so let's get going. I actually sped this up a little bit for you so it would kind of go a little faster. But I just wanted to show you that I use my journal for list making. I do a lot of lists, whether it's prepping for my shows or things I'm working on in the studio or even chores I'm doing for every day. But once I've done with the chores, this is how I reward myself. I get to turn it into an art page. So the first thing you want to do is cover it up with a nice coat of gesso. Now there are thinner gessos or thicker gessos. I am not particularly what's the word? I'm not fussy about what I'm using. I can either use a paintbrush. You can even kind of add it on with an old credit card or a gift card and then just scrape it around. But that just knocks back the actual list that you made. So what you have then is really kind of more of a plain surface. By the way, the places that are thickly coated with gesso versus the places that are not coated are going to grab your paints, inks, and dyes a little bit differently, which adds some really cool texture. So notice how I didn't worry about covering it up completely. I'm not super neat about this. I kind of like that haphazard look. So now I'm going ahead and I'm drying it with my heat tool just because I want to speed it up and show you the next part. So for the next part, I'm going to use my gelatos. You can use any water-based medium that you like. And gelatos work well. I also have a video about the Michael's Recollections water-based crayons and the Faber Castell crayons, so take a look at those if you want more information. But what I'm going to do next is actually just take this paper doily and a little bit of gel medium, and I'm using the Studio line from Claudine Helmuth because that's what I have, but you can use almost anything. I just don't recommend Mod Podge, and the reason why I don't like Mod Podge for this project is because it always stays a little sticky. So you're better off using a gel medium, a clear medium, even just plain old white glue is actually better than Mod Podge for this. So go ahead and decoupage down your little doily or any ephemera you might have. You might want to put down like tickets or stubs or things that you actually used during that week. It's kind of a fun way again of like going, hey, I'm done with this list, I'm done with this task, let me just throw it onto a page and make it into some art. So now I'm drying my doily and it's getting a little bubbly and I'm okay with that. If it bothers you, just set it out to dry, go do something else and come back. But I find that like that's even more texture for me and that works. So again, I'm kind of haphazard. So now you're going to go ahead and spread around your color. And again, I'm using the Faber-Castell gelatos. I'm being really haphazard about it, but you can see that even as I go over that little bit of doily, it kind of picks up the lights and the darks of the texture, which I really enjoy. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of water. Now be careful at this stage. If you work super wet, there are places on this page that are not covered in gesso, so it's going to soak through. So you may want to even put like a little bit of deli paper or something underneath. But as you scrumble on the color, which is my favorite word for this technique, I'm just kind of scrubbing the color on with a semi-wet brush. It's going to pick up the highlights and it's going to pick up the texture in the gesso. It's going to pick up the texture in that doily. Also, paper napkins work really well for this layer. I'm going to throw some washi tape down and let that pick up some texture. But all of this then kind of gets incorporated in the casserole of art journaling. Now, if you're new to art journaling and this intimidates you, let me just give you permission to experiment. Okay, this is not a professional thing. Nobody has to see it but you. It's in your book, right? And it can be anything you want it to be. Now, just a little side note, you may want to seal your washi tape with a little bit more gel medium or glue. And the reason why is that washi tape is usually a repositionable tape and it wants to reposition, which means it might curl up off of that gesso. So also, just a little side note, that the more gel medium you add, it's going to change the way the page accepts those inks and dyes. So I'm going to use a little stencil in here because I like it, and we'll show you what that looks like. So actually I wanted to let you know I did use a little bit of Adirondack inks for this, but because I had gessoed it first, I'm able to kind of clean it up a little bit with a baby wipe. It kind of moves around, and as you see, it kind of falls in the little nooks and crannies again and just adds another little bit of highlighting and texturing. So then, because I wanted to lighten up things just a little bit more, I went back over it with some gesso, just like a little light dry brushing technique. I wanted to kind of smooth some of those hard edges from the stenciling and also kind of marry the whole thing back together a little bit more. Now my next layer for this is actually going to do a little bit of stamping. I have this bold floral stamp and I'm using the India ink, not the Adirondack that you see, because I wanted it to kind of go over the top and be nice and bold and not rub off. So adding a little bit for me of this like dark contrast I think is a nice way of kind of creating a secondary focal point, and it keeps the eye kind of moving around in a circle. So a little bit of black stamping kind of adds a lot for me, and then I'm going to use a little bit of drawing. I have my favorite pens here, including my Signo pen, my my Dilutions paint pen, and this is my favorite Castell Pitt pen in gold, which doesn't show up really well on the camera, but it shows up great in real life. So then I just go back and I add a little bit of the dots, a little bit of the little freckles and polka dots that kind of is my signature style, but just adding that little bit extra detailing. And you can do as much or as little as you want. Now you can finish this page off by adding some journaling over the top. You could throw some photos in there, like little Instax pictures. You could even throw some ephemera in here, things that maybe you've collected. But any way you slice it, this is just a way that you can take your bullet journal or your to-do lists and transform it into an art journal. Only you know what's underneath all of that, all of those layers, and it's just another way of being creative and rewarding yourself. That's the big thing. You've rewarded yourself for finishing the chore list. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please like and subscribe. Visit me over at Periscope because that's where I do this stuff live. And as always, have a crafty day.